Hello and welcome everybody, this is Hubbly here. This is gonna be my first take on making an educational video or like an introductional video for new players that just bought Tarkov, or the people that are just starting out or simply need help basically starting out in EFT and they're not quite sure how to properly approach the game. And there is a lot of advice I can try and share with you guys. Some of this advice you guys might find that you're familiar with it, but hopefully some of it that you're not going to be familiar with and that you might benefit from it. So basically this is going to be one of the first type of videos that I make like this. There's a lot of other people that do these type of videos as well. But a lot of people like to hear it from me and what I try to do whenever I start playing EFT. So to get started, showing you guys the main menu. So for example, you just started EFT, you just loaded up the game. This is what you're gonna see. So you got your character screen and trading. Before you actually start playing the game, the first thing I highly try to recommend people is go into their settings and change their graphical settings. There's a few things that I recommend to people that will basically help them be able to run their game better. A lot of people come to me be like, yo Hubbly, I have a tough time running the game, and what can I do to make the game run better? So the first thing, the number one approach, change some of the settings that you have. Now I'm not quite sure what the default settings are, and I don't care what they are. However, I want to point out a few things. So the number one thing actually is the screen resolution. By default, the game runs at the smallest resolution possible, which is 124 by 768. It's definitely not the resolution that most people play at. Most people play at around, I would say 1080p, so 1920 by 1080. Or maybe if they have a widescreen, it might be 1920 by 1200. In my case, I play at 2560 by 1440. That is also considered 1440p. Now, what I recommend you do is choose whatever the highest resolution you have, or whatever your monitor's main resolution is. So once you set that, make sure the game is on full screen. I've never benefited from running the game on window mode. Kind of noticed that the game would micro stutter a little bit more. So running it on full screen will in some cases provide you with a more stable experience, a better experience. Now, as you can see, I'm running VSync. You usually don't want to have this option on. I would like you to completely ignore this option right now. You want to have it disabled. The only reason I have it enabled is because it triggers something else that unlocks my FPS. As you can see, if I uncheck it, which is how it's supposed to be, my FPS is stuck at 121, 122. That's what most people have. For some reason, if I check it, Tarkov goes nuts and it unlocks your FPS. So that's the only reason I really have it on. Other than that, I would disable it. Now the second thing, you want to check your overall graphics quality slider. I recommend setting this to low. And the reason you don't want to keep it at default is because there is some people notice some settings that are not available for us to change that are turned up if the overall graphics quality slider is not set to low. So setting it to low is your step number one here. Step number two, I'm going to explain some testing I've personally done regarding some settings and how they affect your gameplay. Now, graphics quality, shadows quality, if you set it to medium, the shadows would definitely look a little bit better, and they're not going to be as, let's say, jaggy and bulky as they normally are on low settings. That's fine. But I've also noticed a decrease in FPS performance. So in my case, if I'm at a tough location, let's say I'm in the middle of Shoreline Resort and my friends are tanking, having this set to low might help me ever so slightly be able to perform better in any possible gunfights that I might experience. The other thing here is setting up the LOD quality higher than, let's say, 2 or 2.5 for some reason will also tank your FPS. Now the most interesting one that I found is actually your overall visibility slider. As you can see, I got mine set to 400. Now, if I set it to 1000, which is literally one tick ahead, I will automatically lose between 10 and 15 frames. I don't know why, it just happens, and I can show you guys in game at the later footage. The shadow visibility, I did not notice it change much, and I don't actually recall if it hurt my frames, but as far as I can tell, I would just turn this off. Now everything else here you want to turn off. Some people like to have some anti-aliasing in EFT specifically, and I agree. If you're playing at a 1080p resolution and you have anti-aliasing turned off, you're gonna see a lot of jaggies and a lot of unpleasant visuals as you're playing it, especially in maps like customs. It happens in all maps. But turning on anti-aliasing to any setting is gonna completely destroy your FPS. In my case, I got used to playing with no AA, and it will provide me with the highest performance that I can use. So that's basically me. Now, usually you want sharpen maxed out. The only reason I have mine set to 1.0 is because I'm also using reshade, and reshade is basically like an application that will make your game sharper than what it normally is, and having the sharpen slider maxed out plus the sharpening ability that reshade gives is gonna completely make the image not look very pleasant to look at. So I did turn mine down. In your case, if you're not using reshade, I do recommend setting it to 1.4. Unchecking all the boxes at the bottom will get rid of any extra unneeded visuals, and basically that is your graphics tab settings that I do recommend you guys use, of course with VSync turned off and sharpen set to 1.4. If you go to the game tab, there are two settings here that you want to mess with. I do highly recommend you uncheck enable NVIDIA highlights if you have that option, setting FOV to 75 and setting head bobbing to 0.2. And that's basically it for the main settings that you want to change. Now I personally went into controls and I've changed some of the buttons here to kind of suit my preference, and you can definitely do the same. Something else I've noticed here is the mouse sensitivity. You get two mouse sensitivities. One has aiming in brackets. If you have both of those settings at different values, you as a player will have to get used to and learn two different sensitivities. Now, some people will perform just fine with two different sensitivities. In my case, I kind of prefer having both of them set to the exact same. It's just easier for my body to kind of learn one sensitivity and get accustomed to it, and that's it. So that's basically what I got going on. It works for me. It might or might not work for you. That's just an optional thing. Okay, so to move on, we're finally done with our settings. The next thing I would like to go to before we actually start playing is traders. So you click on traders and you got your traders right here. Every single trader specializes in something. And for example, Propor, if you click on Propor, you're gonna see that he deals with a lot of different ammunition, weapon parts, silencers, and AKs and Russian weaponry. Basically anything that's Russian, Propor will more likely deal with. This is gonna be your level 1 Propor trader. This is how it's gonna look like. So he has some ammo that you can use, some 30 round mags, some AKs, and some Russian pistols here as well. If you go to therapist, for example, she's gonna be dealing with meds. Skier, like a weapon modification specialist and a support weapon specialist. So you're gonna see most of your shotguns and most of your carbines like the SKS and whatnot, they're all gonna be there. And he will eventually also deal with some sniper rifles at some point. So Skier is a very important trader. As you can see, this is Skier maxed out, and he deals with all sorts of weapon accessories, modification, equipment. So we're talking about, like, for example, 7.62 silencers, thermal sights, and whatnot. Peacekeeper is basically like the UN / anything that's not Russian, Peacekeeper will sell. So for example, he'll sell you the MP5 or the M4. Obviously these are not Russian guns, so you're definitely gonna find these guns along with their modifications over at Peacekeeper. This is Peacekeeper level 1. This is how it looks like. You can purchase an MP5 off him, which is actually not a bad gun for a starter. Some ammo right here, and some mags. What you can use on the MP5 at level 1. Lastly, we got 2 traders here. I'm just gonna go through them real quick. Basically, Ragman deals with anything that you as a player can wear. So for example, your player is gonna be wearing a vest, he's gonna be wearing armor, a helmet, a backpack. You wanna go to Ragman, he's gonna be the guy dealing with that equipment. Now if you go to Mechanic is like a rare kind of weapons dealer. At level 1, as you can see, he deals with crazy modified guns. Guns that you need bitcoins to trade, and these bitcoins are considered fairly rare and they're extremely valuable. So for example, for 4 bitcoins, he can trade you this extremely modified, it's literally called a Space Trooper Thermal M4 with a 60 round drum mag as well. Like stuff that is extremely modified, some stuff that are out of this world, he'll basically trade as well. So he also deals with Glocks and G18, which is the fully automatic version of the Glock. So any type of Glock modifications, I'm gonna skip over to I'm gonna skip over to Mechanic 3, and as you can see, he can definitely deal with you here some extremely modified G17s. Also at level 2 as well, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So at level 2 you got these crazily modded G17s to deal with. So that's Mechanic. That's Mechanic, Ragman, Peacekeeper, and all the other traders. Now Fence is please somebody you want to kind of ignore at lower levels. At least that used to be the case. But if you're not sure how to deal with Fence, if you click on him and you're going to see a lot of, a bunch of items that you will not know if they're valuable, if they're not. Should you buy them? Should you not buy them? The thing is, as you can see, they have an extremely high price tag. The reason for that is because Fence will actually purchase stuff off you for really, really cheap, and he will sell them for a lot of money for other players. So for example, if I want to sell this exact specific pistol here that we have, Fence, you're going to see it on Fence. Somebody else is going to see it on Fence, and they can buy it, but they're going to be able to buy it for sometimes 2 or 3 times the amount of money that I was provided for it. So basically, you're going to be paying a lot of money for it. Now, here's a cool thing about Fence. If you're a lower level, there is no way that you can really full out purchase armor. So for example, if I go to Ragman, here's some armor I would like to have, but he will only trade 5 masks for 1 set of P.A.K.A. armor, which is not the best armor in the game. It's one of the weakest armors in the game. It's still armor though, and it's not extremely bad to use. Any set of armor is going to help you from shotgun pellets and whatnot, so I definitely recommend getting some armor. However, you can't just buy it. If you have the money, you don't have the items, your only option to get armor is from Fence. The Fence is your go-to guy only whenever you have your traders extremely low level, you don't have them leveled up, and you can't buy armor from them. So for example, what I would recommend you do is go through these sets of armor, and you want to find one that's not too expensive and not too cheap. So for example, I'm gonna try and find P.A.K.A. armor, and there's a multiple of them, but they all have different prices. And the reason for that is because if I inspect both of them here and put them side by side, you can see that one of them has 25 armor points while the other one has 42. So obviously the one with 42 armor points is more expensive. The thing is, this also applies to these to the higher level armor as well. So for example, we have 2 Carasas. If we put them side by side, this one has 59 armor points, this one has 39 armor points. But however, look at their price difference. One is 68k, one is 102,000 rubles. That's a lot of money for, I mean, it's a good armor, but it's 100,000 rubles. It's just so expensive for what it is. So what I recommend you do, depending on the equipment you have, depending on the guns that you're going in with, you want to kind of buy armor according to your overall loadout. So if you're going in, let's say with a shotgun, with a pistol, you're not really carrying much, going in with a P.A.K.A. or a cheap blue armor, which is the UNTAR, is definitely something you might want to look into. So for example, this armor has 32 armor points. You can just simply purchase it, equip it, and you're good to go. In my case, I already got my armor set up, so I'm good on that. So I'm glad we got that part out of the way. So now you understand the traders, you understand the differences between them. The next part I would like to introduce here is basically the fact that if you click on prop ore and you go to your regular level 1 prop ore per se, you're gonna see a lot of items that are like blacked out. They look like they're not really examined. So what you want to do is you want to right click those items and you want to examine them. Now I don't have any items that are not examined here, but in your case, if you do have items that are unexamined, I do recommend you examine them through the traders first before you get into a game. So for example, let's say this 7.62 PS ammo for some reason is not examined, and I go into a raid and I find a lot of them in the raid. However, at the same time I'm being shot at and I start examining the ammo, that's probably going to get me killed. And actually have got me killed in the past while I'm examining an item, and just because I'm just standing there, standing still, examining something, you get shot in the face, or you get shot in the back or whatever. So hopefully that makes sense. Examining items at the traders before you actually go into the raid is definitely something you want to do. Now, for those who are not familiar with the Sordins are basically the type of headsets, military style headsets that you can purchase. So I'm just going to put them side by side here just to kind of know or see their physical differences. So these are the regular Comtacs, and this is like a different type of active headset as well. And then finally you got the Sordins. And what's really nice about Escape from Tarkov is that all of these headsets sound and operate differently in the game. They will sound different, and they will pick up sounds in your raid at, let's say, different intervals and whatnot. So what I would like to do is I would like to just demonstrate to you the reload mechanic, as well as how do these headsets affect you as a player. So I'm gonna go into an offline factory raid. Factory is like a very small map. It has a lot of scavs, AI, and PMCs that you can fight, and it can be a big clusterfuck. But I'm gonna do an offline quick raid here, just to kind of demonstrate to you how do these headsets sound, so you get familiar with them. Alright, so we just spawned into our factory raid, and as you can see, if I walk around and I run, this is how the game sounds normally wearing no headset. Okay, so the thing is, if I wear contacts, the whole environment sounds, they decrease. And the thing is, my footsteps are actually now very loud, very crisp, and they have like the sound as if you're walking on chips, I guess. These are how Comtacs sound, so I'm gonna just run, jump, so just so you get familiar with how they sound. Okay, I'm gonna swap over to the GSSH active headset. Now these sound similar to the Comtacs, but they're not exactly the same. They do sound ever so slightly different. Okay. And lastly, the Sordins, which are in fact my favorite because they have like a bassy sound, and they help me pick up other people's footsteps. And if, let's say, somebody's hiding in the bushes or whatnot, with any of these headsets, you'll be able to hear them a lot better. So these are how the Sordins sound like. I'm gonna demonstrate how the gun sounds with all the three headsets. So it will take some time. It will take some time for you to kind of get accustomed to the different sounds and whatnot. But that's fine. You know, all of us, all the experienced players at some point, they had to use those headsets to some extent, get familiar with their differences, and then be able to utilize them accordingly. I would like to briefly demonstrate also the level of detail towards EFT's like gun mechanics. Now the cool thing about Escape from Tarkov is you can remove the magazine from the gun, and you can see here's my gun with no magazine. However, if I ADS, aim down sight, and pull the trigger left click, my gun will fire simply because there's still a bullet in the chamber. You could see it there. There's still that bullet in the chamber, so you can still shoot a gun with no mag. Now, what you can do is you can remove that bullet from the from the gun, sorry. Like so, your character will hold it on his hand, and then now the gun will not fire because there's simply no bullet there. You can put the bullet back in the gun. Okay, now my gun will fire, however, only that one bullet. Put the mag back in the gun, and I'm good to go. A lot of people are not familiar with the level of detail that this game has, and I really appreciate how detailed it is. Unlike any other game I've played, the level of detail overall towards this game is insane. What I would like to do is I would like to move over to this scav that I killed. This scav right here. Okay. Alright, so this scav, for example, we just killed him with our gun. And you can just loot him. And as you can see, this is your stuff on the left, his stuff on the right, and you get to pick and choose, for example, any of the loot that he has. You can right click his gun and be able to see the type of modifications on his gun. I can see that it has a flashlight. Let's say, for example, I do want his flashlight. You can remove it from his gun and then be able to attach it on yours. So basically here's his flashlight that I just picked up off his body, okay? So let's say if I want his shotgun, there we go, we have his shotgun now. It's an MP133 semi-auto shotgun. We can check if it's loaded. It is, I can see the bullet there. We can check, see if the magazine is full. As you can see, your character on the bottom right will tell you if it's full or not. I think this guy had heavy armor. Oh, he just had a P.A.K.A. Did you see how his P.A.K.A. is basically soft armor, the lowest armor in the game, actually saved him from some shotgun pellets? And that is because that's kind of what they're rated for, I guess. But, you know, he's dead now. And this guy has an SKS, so we can pick up his SKS. Here, let's get over here. Our safe spot. We can see his SKS. This is a variant of the Russian semi-auto carbines. However, with this pistol, for example, this guy had this pistol. Okay, as you can see, it has a flashlight. If I do Control T, I can toggle between different modes of the flashlight. I have not turned on the flashlight. It does have a laser now. If I do Control T once, turns into a flashlight. Do Control T again, it changes to both the flashlight and the laser. Control T, and here's we just got the laser. So same mechanics apply here to the pistol. So we can do Shift T. We can see the bullet in the chamber there. We can do Alt T. We can check the magazine. We can see that it's full. And once again, the same thing applies to this pistol, where we can remove the mag. Okay, and once again, if I left click, it will fire. We can remove the bullet from the chamber. There we go, and now our gun is empty. Put the bullet back in the chamber. Okay, and now my gun will fire only that one bullet. Put the mag back in the gun, and I'm basically good to go. And once again, this level of detail you don't really see in many other games, which I really do appreciate in Escape from Tarkov. So we'll kill one scav and leave. I think I hear what's the level there. Okay. There's one down here. Our gun is running out of ammo.
Сука ты, блядь, ты упырь, блядь, гнида, блядь.
Oh. Our gun is out of ammo.
Гнида.
There we go. And they did mess me up. As you can see, I'm bleeding. You always want to pay attention. I want you to pay attention to the top left. You're gonna see where my avatar at the top left, it will keep blinking. Whenever it keeps going in and out, it literally means that, hey, you're bleeding, you're taking damage. Okay, so whenever that happens, you can either keybind your meds, or you can just manually heal. I like to keybind my meds so I don't have to actually go into this menu and just press 4. I fat fingered to 4 and 3, but you press 4 and you start healing, and it will actually heal the first thing that's actually severely damaged or bleeding. So in our case, it was our arm, and it's healed now. So basically, these are the most basic mechanics. Hopefully, you guys, hopefully this helped you guys out. So, and by the way, notice this is my commando rig. It's one of the kind of mid-range rigs. It's not like the largest rig in the game or anything, but it's a decently sized rig. But as you can see, every magazine that's in the rig is 2 slots. However, every stack of ammo is only 1. So I have 2 open slots in here. And in my vest I can put, you know, the pistol, or I can just put whatever I want in here. However, do you notice how my rig is now full? Whenever your rig is full and you try to reload, there is no place for your character to put this empty mag into. He's not going to put it in his pockets because it's a 2-slot item. He's not going to put it in his backpack either. So whenever you reload, you just press R. He puts a new mag in. However, he dropped the empty one on the ground. So you want to pay attention to this, where you want to make sure that there is always 2 open slots for your mags to trade. Okay, I'm gonna press R and then go into, you see how these mags are trading. Okay, do it again. It's trading. So this is basically another mechanic where you want to always be cautious of, you know, what's in your vest. So hopefully this helps, and that will end our tutorial. Alright guys, so the last thing I would like to talk about actually is if you go into your traders, and you get your traders right here lined up, what I highly recommend you do, no matter what level you are, no matter how experienced you are, if you want to progress through the game, make sure you choose one of the traders, click on the tasks tab of every trader, and you're going to be provided with a list of tasks. I highly recommend you accept every task you have available, and you're going to be provided with the option to complete that task. And I do recommend you always keep those tasks, like, not in mind, but make them what you actually play the game for. So for example, this task here asks me to kill 3 scavs on customs and find 3 shotguns. For this specific task, shotguns can actually be purchased from Skier at level 1. So as soon as you start the game, you can actually get the 3 shotguns that he needs, simply purchase them. However, killing 3 scavs at customs, that kind of forces you to go into the customs map, which is right here, and kill those 3 scavs so you can finish up that quest. So making those quests as a priority will definitely help level you guys out very quickly. I would like to kind of demonstrate to you. This is actually the very first task. I want to scroll down and I want to compare the experience and reward of the multiple different higher end tasks comparing to the first couple of early level ones. So this first task will give you 750 XP. It will give you 5,000 rubles. If I scroll down to, let's say, the second one, it will give you a little bit more XP, a little bit less rubles, but also providing you with a decent pistol as well. However, if I scroll down to the higher end ones, so let's say those 3 at the bottom, this one will give you 18,000 XP, 10k rubles, and a fully modified silenced M4. This one will give you even more XP, $5,000, and some really rare items here. And lastly, this is the very last quest for Prapor, will give you 20,000 XP, 250,000 rubles, and an 8-slot container. So you can definitely use that 8-slot container at the bottom instead of your 4-slot alpha container. Alright guys, so there's actually a few things I would like to add. This video is from Tech Yes City, definitely a very reputable, YouTube source, and he basically shows you how to optimize your Windows 10 to be able to not only run Tarkov better, but be able to actually run your whole operating system and a much better experience, have a much better experience doing so. So your Windows is going to be a lot more snappy. It's going to be free of, bullshit resources, and it's going to have additional resources that EFT can use to be able to run better and smoother. I do highly recommend you utilize this Windows 10 optimization guide. A lot of people came to me and they followed this guide, and I've heard nothing but positive feedback from those who tried out this guide, and I highly recommend you guys do the same as well. Okay, so the next thing I would like to mention is a memory cleaner, and this memory cleaner will help clear out your memory if you're running out of it. So for example, if you're on 8 gigabytes of RAM and you're running out of memory by simply playing EFT, it doesn't matter what map, you're going to be reaching that 8 gigabyte limit. By running this memory cleaner, you're going to help push back the usage on your RAM, and it will kind of help you run other maps that you had difficulty running, like Shoreline, because Shoreline utilizes a lot of RAM. You're using this memory cleaner, I'm going to show you right here, for example, will help you once again push back your RAM, your usages, so it will allow you to run other more demanding maps. Once again, I have had some people try this, and I've heard positive feedback from those individuals telling me that they are currently able to play maps they haven't played before. Lastly is actually an ammunition chart, and this ammunition chart will basically show you all the different calibers that are in the game. So for example, if we click on the 545 caliber AK round, you're going to be presented with a lot of types of it. So you got tracers, armor piercing, hollow points, etc. So, and as you can see, every type of bullet has basically a different type of statistics to it, and it's kind of good to know, what bullet is standing where, what type of bullet is standing where. So if you have, like, let's say a bunch of PRS ammo just stacked up in your inventory and you're wondering if you want to use them, I highly recommend you actually look at two valuables here, penetration power and armor damage. So if you look at PRS, it has 22 armor damage and 14 penetration. As you can see, at 14 penetration, it's actually one of the worst bullets for this caliber. Using something like PS has a lot better penetration, and it is definitely better to use instead of PRS. So hopefully that helps you guys here. Also, one last thing I would like to add is the EFTDB, the Escape from Tarkov database. This website is actually still under construction. It's not fully utilized yet. It's not fully set up yet. However, it's functional and you can definitely use it. So for example, this is the main page, and if I click on weapons, you're going to be provided with most, not all, but most of the weapons that are currently in the game. So for example, if I click on one of the AKs, one of the AKs, so AK-102 for example is a 5.56 caliber AK. I can click on it, and as you can see here, it says attachments. And if, actually, we gotta click on modify. How do you mod this? Oh, there we go, mod your AK-102. So once you click on the AK, you can see what it says here, mod your AK-102 or whatever AK or whatever weapon you've chosen. You simply click on it and you're going to be taken to this page. This page will help provide you with the different type of attachments that you can throw on this AK and the different type of modifications that you will end up with at the end. So for example, if we click on this dust cover here, then as you can see, this additional area came up and it's given us the option to add Picatinny rail. I can click on the rail, and now different types of scopes came up. So basically what this means is you can put this scope on the rail and then the rail on the dust cover. That's basically how it goes. And the same thing with the stock. As you can see, we got two options here. So if I click on the default stock, we get another section that came up, and this section is giving me the option to put a rubber butt pad. And if I click on it, basically what this means is I put the rubber butt pad on the stock, and then, you know, obviously the stock on the gun. And you can literally just experiment with the different attachments you have available, and you'll be able to build really cool guns out of this. Hopefully this helps.